Nobody warned me that the woman who replaced my mother would slowly erase me, too. When my father remarried, everyone said I was lucky. Your stepmother is educated. She's a church woman. She'll love you like her own. But they lied. Stay with me. The house did not cry. And that was the strangest part. After the mourners left, after the plastic chairs were stacked and the dust from their shoes settled, the house just sat there, quiet, empty, like it didn't know what to do without my mother's voice filling the rooms. I stood in the doorway of her bedroom, afraid to go in, afraid not to. The air still smelled like her shea butter, camphor, and the faint sweetness of the soap she used every morning. Her wrapper was folded on the bed exactly the way she left it the last day she could still walk. I touched it. It was cold. That was when it finally hit me. Mama was gone, and not at the hospital. Not on a long journey. Not resting. Gone. My chest tightened like a rope was being pulled around it. I opened my mouth to scream, but nothing came out. Just air. Hot, useless air. Outside, my father, Mr. James, was talking to a neighbour in low tones. She was a good woman, the man said. My father nodded. The best. I wanted to run outside and shout, "Then why did you let her suffer like that?" But grief doesn't make you brave, it makes you small. I remembered nights of my mother crying into her pillow, praying to God for a male child. Mama's death had been quick and slow at the same time. Quick because one morning she was there and the next she wasn't. Slow because sickness had been eating her quietly for months while she kept smiling, kept cooking, kept pretending she was fine. She always said, "Anna, don't worry. God is in control." Now God had taken control, and taken her too. That night my father called me into the sitting room. The bulb flickered above us the way it always did when Nepa was about to disappoint someone. "Come and sit," he said softly. I sat on the edge of the chair, my knees pulled to my chest like I was trying to disappear into myself. He cleared his throat. His eyes were red but dry. My father didn't cry easily. He believed tears were for women and children. Today he looked like both. "Anna," he began, "you're my only child. Nothing will change between us." I nodded, though something in me didn't believe him. "I promise you," he continued, placing a hand on my head, "this house will always be your home. I will always protect you. Your mother may be gone, but you still have me." I wanted to believe him. God knows I wanted to. I leaned into his chest and listened to his heartbeat. It sounded strong, steady, alive. I told myself that as long as he was here, I would survive. But the house already felt different. Mama used to wake me up every morning by singing softly while sweeping the corridor. Now mornings came without warning. No songs, no warm pap, no gentle voice calling my name. Just silence. At night I started hearing things, the wind rattling the zinc roof, the distant bark of dogs, the creak of doors that had always creaked but now sounded like footsteps. I slept with the light on, afraid of the dark corners Mama used to chase away with laughter. People kept visiting. Women from church, distant relatives, neighbors who suddenly remembered our house existed. They said things like, "Be strong. God knows best. At least you didn't suffer long." They spoke around me, not to me, like I was a piece of furniture that came with the house. One woman patted my head and whispered, "Sorry, eh? You don't cry. You're such a strong girl." I wanted to ask her, "How do you know?" But my throat burned too much to speak. At night, I cried quietly into my pillow so my father wouldn't hear. I didn't want to add to his pain. I didn't know then that pain multiplies when it's shared. 3 weeks after the burial, my father stopped cooking. At first, it was small things: bread and tea for dinner, noodles eaten in silence, food bought outside and eaten straight from nylon. Mummy used to say, "A home without food is not a home." Our home was shrinking. One evening I heard my father talking on the phone. "I can't continue like this," he said. "The girl needs a woman in the house." The girl. Not my daughter. Not Anna. Just the girl. I felt a strange chill run through me. I believed if I was a boy, he would have proudly called me by my name. Days passed, then weeks. One Sunday afternoon, he sat me down again. "Anna," he said gently, "I've been thinking." My stomach tightened. "I can't raise you alone," he continued. "You need a mother figure, someone to take care of you properly." I stared at the floor. "It's barely 2 months Mama died." "There is a woman," he added. "Her name is Evelyn. She's from church. She's kind, God-fearing." Church. That word was supposed to mean safety. "She knows about you," he said. "She says she will love you like her own child." Something inside me whispered, "People lie." But I was too tired to argue, too young to fight, too broken to resist. My father smiled, hopeful. "Soon you will have a brother to play with. You won't be lonely anymore." Look at how he said it, a brother to play with, not even a sibling, but a brother, because that was his aim of remarrying. But I nodded and smiled faintly. That night I dreamed of Mama. She was standing at the gate, trying to enter, but the gate wouldn't open. She kept knocking and knocking, and I kept screaming for her to come inside. I woke up crying. The first time I saw Evelyn, she was smiling. Not a small smile, not a shy one. The wide, confident kind that showed teeth and promised comfort. She stood beside my father in the sitting room, her head slightly bowed like a woman who knew how to play humility well. She wore a neat Ankara gown, modest but expensive-looking, and carried a Bible tucked tightly under her arm, as if it were proof of her goodness. "Anna," my father called, "come and greet." I walked forward slowly. She bent down immediately, lowering herself to my level. Her perfume filled my nose, sweet, flowery, almost too much. "So this is my daughter," she said softly. "My daughter." The words sounded strange in her mouth. She cupped my face gently. Her hands were soft, manicured, nothing like my mother's hard-working palms, rough with love and sacrifice. "You are beautiful," she continued. "Just like your mother." My chest tightened. My father smiled, relief flooding his face. He looked like a man who had finally found a solution to a problem he didn't know how to solve. "She will be moving in soon," he said. "She's now your new mother." Moving in, new mother, just like that. No long discussion. No asking how I felt. No warning. But I nodded anyway. I had learned that nodding made adults comfortable. That evening, Evelyn cooked. Rice, stew, fried plantain. The house smelled alive again. She hummed softly while stirring the pot, just like Mama used to. My heart leapt with something dangerously close to hope. "Come and taste," she said, handing me a spoon. The stew was good. Very good. "Thank you," I said, surprised. She smiled. "You don't need to thank me, my dear. We are family now." Family. The word landed gently and stayed. When she officially moved in, 2 weeks later, neighbours came again, this time with smiles instead of condolences. "She's a good woman," they whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. "From church, you know. Very responsible." Evelyn greeted everyone warmly. kneeling slightly, laughing softly, calling people Ma and Sir. She knew how to belong. At church, she sat beside my father, singing louder than everyone else. During testimony time, she stood up and thanked God for bringing peace and restoration into our home. People clapped. Some even looked at me with pity, as if to say, "You are lucky." At home, she was attentive. She woke me up early for school, plaited my hair neatly, packed my lunchbox with care. She asked about my day. She listened. At least it looked like she did. "Call me Mummy Evelyn," she said one morning, smiling. The word mummy stuck in my throat. But I forced it out. "Mummy Evelyn." She hugged me tightly, too tightly. "I will take care of you," she whispered. "You won't miss anything." My father watched us, satisfied. He believed he had fixed everything. At night, I sometimes caught Evelyn staring at my mother's photo on the wall. Her smile would fade just for a second before returning. Once I saw her rearranging the sitting room. "Why are you moving Mama's picture?" I asked quietly. She laughed lightly. "Oh, darling, we can't live in the past forever." She placed the photo higher, farther away, almost out of sight. "Small thing," I told myself. Just a small thing. Weeks passed, and Evelyn slowly began to settle into authority. She corrected the way I spoke, the way I sat, the way I ate. "Girls must be neat," she would say. "Girls must be respectful. Girls must not talk too much." Each correction came wrapped in a smile. My father trusted her completely. "She's trying," he told me once when I hesitated. "She means well." I nodded again. But something felt off. Sometimes, when my father wasn't home, Evelyn's voice changed, just slightly, sharper, colder. "Don't leave your slippers there," she snapped one afternoon. "I'm sorry," I said quickly. She paused, then smiled again. "I'm just teaching you discipline your mother never taught you." Another small thing. One evening I overheard her on the phone. "I'm doing my best," she whispered. "But you know how children from first wives can be." She laughed softly. My stomach dropped. I didn't know what children from first wives meant exactly, but I knew it wasn't good. That night I dreamed of Mama again. She was sitting quietly in the corner watching, not smiling, not speaking, just watching. When I woke up, I realized something important. Evelyn wasn't trying to replace my mother. She was trying to erase her. And slowly she was starting with me. The day Daniel was born, the house filled with noise again. Not the gentle kind Mama used to bring, but the loud, proud kind. Laughter, visitors, prayers shouted instead of whispered. Women ululated in the compound like something great had been achieved. "It's a boy!" Those 3 words echoed everywhere. My father smiled in a way I had never seen before, wide, free, almost boyish. People clapped him on the back like he had just won a prize. "God has answered you," they said. "Your name will continue." "Congratulations, Baba boy." I stood at the edge of the crowd, holding a plastic cup of water no one asked for, watching my place in the house quietly shift. When Evelyn returned from the hospital, she carried Daniel like a trophy. Her back straight, her head high. She glowed, radiant, fulfilled, complete. "This is my son, my pride," she announced to anyone who cared to listen. Her son, not our child, not your brother, just her son. At first nothing changed, at least not openly. She still smiled at me, still greeted me kindly in front of my father. But love, I learned, can change shape without making noise. Slowly, Quietly. It did. Daniel slept in my bedroom. I was moved to the smaller room at the back. Babies are delicate, Evelyn explained. They need comfort. I nodded, though no one had asked if I was okay with the move. Night feedings became my duty, carrying water, washing nappies, rocking Daniel while Evelyn slept. When I complained once, just once, she sighed deeply. Anna, I'm not your enemy, she said, placing her hand on her chest. But this is my first child. You should understand. My father agreed. She's tired, he said. Help her. So I did. At church, Evelyn was praised endlessly. A wonderful mother, they said. Such patience. God bless you for loving another woman's child. She would smile humbly, nodding towards me. I love her like my own, she'd say. People looked at me, waiting for confirmation. I smiled, because I had learned that truth is dangerous. At home, Daniel grew, and so did Evelyn's pride. He cried, the whole house stopped. I cried, I was told to be strong. He broke a plate, it was an accident. I broke a cup, it was disrespect. One evening, Daniel pulled my school books off the table and tore a page. I gasped. Daniel, stop! Evelyn stormed in. Why are you shouting at my child? She demanded. He spoiled my book, I said softly. She picked Daniel up and glared at me. You're jealous because he's loved. The words slapped harder than any hand. Jealous? Of what? Of a child who belonged? That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. I remembered my father's promise after Mama's burial. Nothing will change. I almost laughed, because everything had. The house had learned a new center, and I had learned my new place. I wasn't hated. That would have been easier. I was simply unnecessary. And invisibility, I would soon learn, hurts longer than pain. Hunger didn't arrive suddenly. It crept in. It came quietly, like something that knew it wasn't supposed to be there. At first, it was just my plate. The rice spoon stopped coming twice. The meat stopped landing. The stew thinned like someone had poured water into kindness. Eat slowly, Evelyn would say, watching me closely. Food is not cheap. Learn responsibility. Responsibility. I was only 9. Daniel's plate, meanwhile, never lacked colour. Egg, fish, milk, fruit. His spoon was always full, his mouth always encouraged. Eat well, my son, she cooed. You must grow strong and taller than some people, she said, making reference to me. Sometimes, after school, my stomach would hurt so badly I'd curl up on the bed and wait for sleep to save me. Other times I drank water until the pain dulled enough to pretend I was fine. When my father noticed I was losing weight, Evelyn answered before I could speak. She's picky, she said casually. She refuses food and wants only snacks. Children of nowadays. My father frowned at me. Stop forming bad habits, he warned. Respect food. I nodded, too weak to argue. The day my father chose Evelyn, it didn't happen with shouting. It happened quietly, like a door closing without noise, but locking forever. It started on a Monday morning. I was late for school, not because I slept too long, not because I was lazy, because Daniel had cried all night. Evelyn shook me awake before dawn. Carry him, she said, already turning back to the bedroom. I didn't sleep well. I carried Daniel. I rocked him. I sang softly. I walked the corridor until my legs shook. By the time he slept, the sun was already up. I rushed to prepare for school. No breakfast, no proper bath, my uniform barely dry. When I arrived late, my teacher frowned. Again? She asked. I said nothing. Silence had become my language. That afternoon, I came home to more work. Wash clothes, sweep the compound, fetch water, cook rice. Daniel played in the sitting room surrounded by toys. Don't shout near him, Evelyn warned. His brain is still forming. My brain apparently was already finished. That evening, exhaustion pushed courage into my chest. My father was sitting in the sitting room reading his newspaper. Evelyn was in the kitchen. "Daddy," I said softly, standing in front of him. He looked up. "Yes?" "I'm tired," I said. "I do everything in this house. I wake up at night. I'm always hungry. I'm failing in school." He frowned. "What are you saying?" "I don't think Mummy Evelyn likes me," I whispered. "She treats Daniel better. She calls me useless." The words poured out, shaking, rushed, like if I stopped, I'd lose them forever. For a moment he was silent. Then Evelyn appeared in the doorway. "What is going on?" she asked sweetly. "She's lying," Evelyn continued before I could speak again. "I discipline her because I care. She hates me because I love my son." My father stood up. "Anna," he said slowly, "is this true?" I nodded. "She starves me. She insults and beats me when you're not around." Evelyn gasped. "You see," she cried, "this is what I have been enduring. Lies, wickedness." She began to cry. Real tears, loud ones. "I left my comfort to raise another woman's child," she sobbed. "And this is my reward." My father's face hardened. "Enough," he said, "to me, not to her." "I won't tolerate disrespect in this house," he continued. "Apologize to your stepmother." The room spun. "Daddy," I whispered. "You heard me." Evelyn wiped her tears and looked at me. Victory sat comfortably in her eyes. "I'm sorry," I said. The words tasted like ash. From that day, everything changed. I was no longer a daughter. I was help. I woke before everyone, slept after everyone, ate last, if at all. Daniel was praised for breathing. I was scolded for existing. My grades dropped, my teachers noticed, but no one asked. Dreams became dangerous. Hope became foolish. But the worst part wasn't what happened inside the house. It was what Evelyn did outside it. She made everyone believe I was stubborn, disrespectful, and irresponsible. She never told them how she starved me, how she beats me at any slightest mistake, how she always made sure I was the last to eat whatever was cooked, how I carried responsibilities bigger than my age. It was a hot Saturday afternoon, the type that made the air heavy and tempers short. I was outside, bent over a bucket of dirty plates, my sleeves rolled up, my back aching. Daniel was inside watching cartoons, laughing freely, laughing the way only loved children do. Evelyn came out of the house suddenly. "Anna." Her voice cut through the compound. "Yes, Ma?" I replied, standing up quickly. She marched toward me, her wrapper tied loosely, her face already twisted. "Where is the money I kept on the dining table?" she asked. My heart skipped. "I don't know, Ma, I didn't touch it." I didn't even finish speaking before her palm landed on my face. "Pa!" The sound was sharp and loud, like something breaking open. I staggered backward. My head spun. The taste of blood flooded my mouth. "Thief!" she shouted. "So this is how you repay me?" "I swear I didn't take it," I cried. Another slap. Harder. The plates slipped from my hands and shattered on the concrete. The noise carried. Doors opened slightly, curtains shifted. Someone across the fence turned down their radio. Everyone heard. Nobody came. Evelyn grabbed my arm and dragged me toward the middle of the compound. "Come and see her," she yelled to no one in particular. After all my suffering, she wants to steal. I fell to my knees. Please, I begged. She kicked the bucket aside and raised her hand again, but stopped. Not because of mercy, because she had an audience. She wanted witnesses. You are useless, she hissed. A burden, just like your dead mother left you. The words hit harder than the slap. I felt something tear inside me, something fragile and final. Later that evening, the money was found. Daniel had shoved it under the sofa while playing. Evelyn said nothing. No apology, no correction. No shame. When my father returned, she spoke first. She stole money today, she said calmly, and she embarrassed me in front of neighbors. I opened my mouth. He raised his hand. I don't want to hear it, he said. I'm tired. That night I cried quietly, my face swollen, my heart numb. The next morning my small bag was packed. She will go and stay with her grandmother for some time, Evelyn announced. Maybe discipline will enter her body. My maternal grandmother, Mama's mother, the woman who had cried the loudest at Mama's burial. My father avoided my eyes as he paid for the transport. Behave yourself there, he said. Don't disgrace me. No hug. No apology. No promise. As the bus pulled away, I watched the house fade from view. Daniel waved once, then went back inside. Evelyn didn't look back. And that was how I was removed. Not chased. Not disowned. Just quietly erased. Because in some families, sending you away is the cleanest way to pretend you never belonged. My grandmother's house did not welcome me with softness. It welcomed me with reality. The roof leaked when it rained. The walls were cracked and tired like the woman who lived inside them. My maternal grandmother, Mama Rose, was strong, but age had bent her back and sharpened her tongue. So this is how they sent you? She asked the night I arrived, pulling me into a brief, tight hug. Like luggage? I nodded. She didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. Grief had taught her how cruelty worked. Life with Mama Rose was hard, but honest. There were no lies disguised as love. I woke early to fetch water. I helped on her small farm behind the house. I learned how to stretch gari, how to survive on little, how to keep my head down and my eyes open. School was a struggle. Fees came late. Sometimes, not at all. When I complained once, Mama Rose looked at me sharply. No one is coming to save you, she said. If you want a life, you must build it yourself. Her words stung, but they stayed. I learned to be quiet, and not the broken silence from before, but a thoughtful one, the kind that listens, the kind that plans. I hawked groundnuts after school. I learned to save coins carefully. I learned that hunger no longer scared me. I had already met it and survived. Years passed. I grew taller, leaner, stronger. The girl who once cried herself to sleep learned to cry inside when no one could see. I stopped dreaming loudly. Dreams attract disappointment. Instead, I worked. By 16, I was teaching younger children after school for small money. By 18, I knew how to survive without asking permission. I wrote my exams once. Failed. I wrote them again. Passed. Failure no longer frightened me. I had lived with worse. Sometimes, at night, I wondered if my father ever thought of me. He never visited. Never called. Never asked. And strangely, that rejection stopped hurting. It became information. I was preparing for an interview one Tuesday morning when my phone buzzed. And strangely, my father was begging to see me. I learnt Daniel was everything you would never wished for a child. Daniel, once a sweet and obedient child, was now stubborn, loud, and demanding. The house echoed with tantrums they could no longer control. Teachers and neighbors began whispering, questioning their patience and discipline. I returned on a Thursday, not in a rush, not with fear. I returned like someone who knew where they had been and who they had become. The compound looked smaller than I remembered. The paint had peeled, the gate squeaked like it was tired of opening. Even the mango tree my mother once loved seemed thinner, less proud. Nothing had grown, only decayed. My heels clicked softly on the concrete as I walked in. I wore simple clothes, neat, confident, earned. I didn't need to announce myself. The house recognized me before anyone else did. My father was the first to see me. He froze. "Anna," he whispered, like he was afraid the name might disappear if he said it too loudly. I nodded. "Daddy." That single word broke him. His shoulders sagged, his eyes filled. The man who once raised his hand to silence me now couldn't find his voice. "I looked for you," he said weakly. I didn't ask when. We both knew the answer. Evelyn stood at the doorway, thinner now, her face tired, her confidence gone. The woman who once ruled the house now hovered like a guest afraid of overstaying. She walked toward me slowly, and then did something I never expected. She knelt. "My daughter," she cried, clutching my legs. "Please forgive me. I was wicked. I was jealous. I didn't know God would expose me like this." Her tears were real. So was my silence. I looked down at her and felt nothing. No anger, no joy, no victory, just clarity. "I forgive you," I said calmly. Her head snapped up, hope flashing in her eyes. "But I'm not coming back," I continued. The hope died quietly. Forgiveness, I had learned, is not an invitation. Daniel came in just then. He's now a teen, and looking at him knew he's already a punishment to them. My father sobbed openly now. "I failed you," he said. "I chose peace over truth. I let you suffer." I stepped closer and held his hands. "I survived," I said gently. "But survival doesn't mean forgetting." The house felt heavy with regret. Walls remembered what people wanted to erase. The air itself seemed ashamed. "I've built my life," I added. "I won't unbuild it to fit old mistakes." Evelyn bowed her head. For the first time, she had no control. The power had shifted completely, and she knew it. I turned toward the door. No shouting. No drama. No revenge, just dignity. As I walked away, I understood something deeply. Some apologies come too late to change the past, but just in time to set you free. This is not a story about revenge. It's a story about survival. Some stepmothers don't use knives. They use silence, lies, and patience. And sometimes their downfall isn't loud. It's lonely.